Can you make a delicious breakfast casserole without eggs? Why, yes, yes you can. Whether you're vegan or plant-based, allergic to eggs, or allergic to the prices that they're charging for eggs these days, then this vegan breakfast casserole is going to be perfect for your brunch. Usually I would start by sauteing onions and peppers and potatoes in the pan. I wanted to show you this great hack for when you're serving a crowd. This bag of potatoes O'Brien has onions, peppers, and potatoes already peeled and chopped for you. Let's just face it, peeling potatoes for 20 people at 6 a.m., no thank you. I'm going to start by dumping some of these potatoes O'Brien into my pan. Got about 2 cups there, and I'm going to let that cook for a while until those potatoes start to brown a little bit. Plus, I don't know about you, but I don't like cooking in the morning, and this casserole is better left over. So I like to make it the night before and just warm it the day of the brunch. I'm also tossing in some carrots here to give a little color and texture. I'm just making a half batch today because it's just my husband and I eating it. But if you're making it for a large crowd, you want to put it in a 9x13 casserole dish, I'll put the recipe in the description box below. Now that my potatoes are starting to brown, I'm going to add some vegan breakfast sausages that I've chopped up, and I am going to let that brown just a little bit longer before I start adding my veggies. Once these are starting to brown, we can go ahead and add our vegetables in. I am going to start with some spinach, and I like to chop that up fine so that it kind of disappears into my casserole. And then I'm going to add in some zucchini. I have these from my garden from last year, and they were frozen. So I had shredded them up to freeze them. I probably would choose to use diced zucchini, but this is what I had on hand, and I'm sure it'll work out great. When you're using frozen zucchini, you want to make sure you squeeze it out really well so that all the water is out of the zucchini. Otherwise, you're going to have a very mushy casserole. Back in the day, my mom's breakfast casseroles would be mostly sausage and some egg, but what I'm trying to do here is to give a little flavor of the sausage and texture, but replace most of the meat with vegetables, so it's a little bit healthier. That's all looking really good. If you wanted to use different vegetables here, you are more than welcome to do that. You can use some broccoli or some asparagus. You could put anything you want in here. It would be really good. Now this is why you're here, to see how I get that eggy texture in my casserole. We're going to use a combination of tofu and chickpea flour to get the egg texture. So because I'm only using half of my block of tofu. And this is a extra firm block of tofu. And I'm also going to add in the chickpea flour. Now chickpea flour can be found at your local grocery store, believe it or not. Most of the time it is in the alternative flour aisle in your baking section or with the gluten-free flours, but it's also in the Asian aisle in the Indian section, and that is where it's the cheapest. So if you want to try that, we're just putting that into the blender with the rest of our ingredients. We are going to put in a little bit of water. The recipe calls for plant milk, but the only plant milk I have right now is vanilla, and I didn't want to put that in there, so I'm going to go with water. I think it'll be fine. We're adding some nutritional yeast flakes, some McKay's chicken style seasoning broth powder. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description box below. We're also doing some onion powder and some garlic powder. And you can salt to taste. The great thing about this is no raw eggs or anything here, so you can taste it and make sure it's got the right amount of saltiness. Now let's blend this up. This probably would have blended better in a food processor because I'm doing such a small amount, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm just going to have to give it a stir and do it again. We want it to be smooth and able to pour over our vegetables. Ingredient I forgot to tell you about is some turmeric. I like to add just a pinch of turmeric, not for flavor, but just for color. I want my eggy mixture to look a little bit yellow. One more blend and I think we're done. All right, that was a little bit of work, but I think I got it. I think it's ready to go. I forgot one more ingredient I like to add to my eggy mixture, and that's a little bit of Dijon or brown mustard. I'm just going to do about a teaspoon. I'm just going to stir that in as we go. It'll be fine. Okay, this is looking really good, but I think I forgot to half my vegetables. Remember I told you I was doing a half recipe? I think I put all of my vegetables in here and I have too many. So I'm going to take some out. And to this I am going to add my eggy mixture. Next, I'm going to definitely use a food processor for that project. It's hard to clean out. Okay, to this I'm also going to add in some fresh herbs. This is some basil and some parsley. Give that a stir. And that is going to be the basis for our casserole. I'm going to also add a little Lowry seasoned salt to this. I did not salt my vegetables at all. There we go. There we go. Now, if you want to do this frittata style, you could put it in the bottom of your skillet and then put it in the oven, but I'm going to put it into a casserole dish. But before I do that, I bought some vegan sliced cheese on clearance, and I keep it in my freezer for when I just want to use a slice or two to give a little bit of a cheesy flavor to my meals. I don't like to have a lot of vegan cheese, but a little bit gives a nice flavor. So I'm going to stir that in. I don't want to put the vegan cheese on top because it does not melt well and it doesn't look like real cheese. So now I'm going to put this into my casserole dish. Make sure you spray your casserole dish with cooking spray so it doesn't stick. Then you can just dump this right into your casserole dish. Remember, this is a half batch. If we were doing a full batch, this would fit a 9x13 pan. We're going to spread this out and kind of smooth it out, and then we are going to bake it. So here's my casserole. Let's cut it. So I'll be the first to admit that this is not the prettiest casserole that ever lived, but I bet it's the tastiest. If you're looking for some more great plant-based recipes, check out the playlist right here and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any recipes. So good.